When I used to work at GPS, we used to have to like rope stuff off.
Really?
Like, this is catering for a special event.
They're in ministry. They're poor.
I know. I'm like, y'all are ridiculous. I get so mad at the student body at that place. You're such freeloaders.
My mom has Alzheimer's and lives alone.
Can I interrupt the circle?
We just moved her here.
No.
Everybody's together.
Y'all just want to socialize?
True.
She's living
Do we
in
need to
a
separate? Do we need to separate certain
It's
people?
really nice.
Isn't?
We're small grouping.
Did you hear about the pastor who named his boat Visitation so he could tell people he was out on visitation?
I've heard things like the other one is the guy who named his four-poster Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, so he could tell people he was in the Word.
Nice.
That's what I need to do.
Yeah.
Naps.
Well, thanks for doing this, guys. I'm really excited about coaching. I was thinking about this morning that this feels like, so 2 years ago when we started small groups, and it was all new, and we were kind of making it up as we went. Kind of didn't know what we were doing. Just really trying to listen to the Holy Spirit and do what He said or what made sense. And I was thinking that this coaching thing kind of feels like that. Because we've read some books, Sarah's read up on it a lot, we've talked to other churches, but we're still kind of making this up as we go. So we're in this together, you guys give us feedback, but it's going to be so good for our groups. I think it's going to be a big piece that we've been missing, have coaches. So thanks for being willing to do it. You guys probably know Sarah, right? Met Katie, you may not have met. Katie is the newest addition to our small group staff. She's my admin now. Yeah. Sarah and I are thrilled to have her. Do you want to introduce yourself or
My
a stupid human trick or?
I don't have one. I would do one if I had one.
My name is Katie Aaron. I'm married to Neil. I have 2 little kids, 5 and 4 months old. Been at IBC for about 10 years, and so happy to be working with Ryan and Sarah and on staff at church.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And she got the food, so
All right.
she's your best friend.
Yeah, make friends. So there are 12 more of you that are showing up the next 2 weeks. So we have 19 total, which I think will account for 13 coaching teams. Some of you guys are going to do it as couples. So anyway, it's good stuff. Sarah's done a bunch of research. She's teaching this week. She's read all the books, right?
Everybody.
Okay.
I've read
some
both or
books.
two. Yeah.
Read some words. A sentence or two. No. But I'm just going to pray for you guys, and then I'm going to jet and go check on our kiosk and our launch pad. This is a big day for small groups.
Busy day, yeah.
Got a lot going on. All right, let's pray. Lord, thank you for these volunteers and their heart for community here. We just pray for this to be a ministry and a church where we love one another the way you command us to, and that we lift you up so the world around us sees that. Just pray for you to give us clarity of vision today. Pray that you would already start to prepare the hearts of these small group leaders that we're going to minister to be encouraged and equipped and to lead the groups well. Pray that you would bless this ministry and each family represented here, and Sarah as she teaches, and pray in Jesus' name. All right. Muffin. You get a muffin.
Yeah, I get a muffin. So yeah, we've got a little group. I will speak to you all from my music stand. I'm more comfortable with the music stand since I use one every week on stage. It's like my little security blanket. So how many of you all have been to small group leaders training? It's okay if you haven't. I'm just curious.
Does the Bible study count or?
Well, you've been in general, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, specifically for ours. I just wasn't, generally, if I was to look at my computer, I would know, but, you know. Well, when you're in that training, obviously you hear us talking about the mission of small groups here at IBC. So before we get going, we're kind of going to touch on that and then also talk about specifically what your mission is, and we'll just get more specific as the morning goes on. So we'll just talk very broadly first about why we're here. So who knows, we say it from the front every week during announcements usually, what the purpose statement of IBC is. It's 3 things. I may be saying, it may not be purpose, it may be mission. I could be wrong on that, but it's 3 things. Does anybody know what they are? that's your small groups. This is the one for all of IBC. Connecting.
Community.
Connecting,
Right.
or growing in Christ. I'm sorry, connecting in community. See, you do know it.
Joining the mission.
And then joining the mission. That's right. So growing in Christ and connecting in community and joining the mission. And I think the most obvious place where small groups fits is in the connecting in community portion. Like if someone were to come up, at the end of service and say they want to get connected, that's where they put them. But we really love that small groups pretty much hits all of those because you're going to be growing and connecting. And then we put a very special emphasis on joining the mission with our small groups. So we kind of hit all of those. But the actual mission statement, and I'm going to write it up here so I don't forget, or at least summarize it. The actual mission of small groups at IBC is to grow, that marker doesn't work, to grow deep relationships. And I'll just put it up here so that we can keep it in front of us all morning. Forgive my marker. To grow deep relationships that advance the kingdom of God in dark places. And I don't have that written anywhere on any of those handouts, so if you want to write it down, that's fine. I'm not a teacher, so I'm not very good at writing on a marker board. And so that's what, if you were to come to small group training, you would be the first thing you would learn that. What we're asking our leaders to do is to facilitate groups that do this, is to grow deep relationships that advance the kingdom of God in dark places. So you can see how that kind of fits with IBC's purpose statement really nicely. So ideally what you have at IBC is, and we all have them, I'll let y'all write for a second before I keep going. We generally have, or what most people have here is a series of relationships that look like a funnel, with the wide end being just the generic people that you kind of see on Sundays and say hi to, and then people in the middle maybe that you've volunteered with or seen around that you're acquainted with. And then what we would love is for at the narrow end of that funnel to be people's small groups, the people that they're deeply connected to that also attend church here. So obviously y'all are willing to serve as coaches, so I feel like you probably understand the value of community. But what are some of the reasons that you feel that community is so important? You can just toss them out. I'm not going to write them down or anything. Why is community important?
That's where you're more likely to be authentic because you're in a safe group.
Right.
That's where you're going to get a heart-to-heart connection that you're not going to get in the top of the phone.
Yeah.
I call it doing life together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think we sharpen each other.
Mm-hmm.
I think it gives us an opportunity to break root.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew this would be an easy question for you guys. I mean, yeah, we really love to think, and I think all of you too do too, Jonathan, that's not really a book of the Bible. John 13:34 through 35, we're here to love God and to love other people. And really in a small group, that's kind of how we do both of those, because like you said, the sharpening each other, it convicts us of things, it helps us to grow. So we know the things that keep it from happening. And we were talking earlier about commuting. Being in your car all day long obviously keeps community from happening. What else?
Just anything in business, travel, whatever else.
Yeah, it kind of isolates you.
Electronic distractions.
Yeah.
Let me check my phone real quick.
TVs,
Yeah, exactly.
iPads, Facebook.
Well, and we are so busy that when we do have spare time, we think we're too tired for community a lot of times. At least I do. I have to sometimes force myself to go, and usually it's rewarding. But I think sometimes we fear ourselves too. Like we don't want to talk to other people about what's going on, because it's easier just to stay right where we are. And maybe even we fear our potential a little bit, or we fear being challenged spiritually, because then we know we're gonna have to work on stuff. So.
Or fear having to do that for someone else.
Yeah, or walk on. And what if someone in your group goes into crisis? I mean, that you're their narrow end of the funnel. So that's you. That's your group there to be with them. So we talk in our small group leader training, obviously, about all of that, and we also talk to our leaders about how we want them to feel called to what they're doing, and we also want them to feel equipped in what they're doing. And up until now, we've tried to equip our leaders with the leader training. We have a once-a-year leader retreat. And we do something called big brunches just a few few times a year, once per session. It's kind of like a workshop for them to come and meet each other and learn a little bit more about how to lead a group. But we really feel like there's a couple of problems. One, some small group leaders don't even feel called. They got kind of thrust into the position. And two, a lot of them probably don't feel fully equipped. Or maybe they did feel equipped and now their group's at a new stage and they're floundering a little bit. And yeah, we have a big brunch, but that's, 2 months away, so what good is that? And we just added Katie to staff. Before that, it was just Ryan and I. And we do have an advisory board, but they all have specific tasks that are assigned to them. So it's next to impossible for us to call all of them and check in and really take care of them. So that's really where you are. The coaching book that I read the most about is called Coaching Life-Changing Small Groups. And it's a great book. You can write it down if you want. It gets a little more in depth than what we're going to do with you guys, at least for these first couple of years. Coaches may add more responsibilities later. But it does define a coach really well as someone that catalyzes and encourages growth in leaders. And so that's really the nuts and bolts of what we're wanting you guys to do. I keep picking up the marker. Catalyze and encourage growth. So that then our leaders can do this, that you grow deep relationships, that advance the kingdom of God in dark places. We just would love another layer to help us ensure that that's going on, but also that our leaders are being taken care of too, because leadership can be a lonely place. And if everybody in your small group assumes you're the leader, they probably assume that everything's going great for you. So sometimes, obviously groups are authentic, and so you're opening up to your groups, but sometimes leaders aren't cared for as well. So this is what we're asking you to do at the very basic, is catalyze and encourage growth in our small group leaders. So we're going to start at the top, and I'm going to get specific just for a moment and talk about kind of what the requirements are of you, and then we'll get into the philosophy of it all. So in the first handout that I put in your folders is just a requirements page. Just because I know I like to know up front, what kind of time I'm talking about. And so the three things very generally are praying for your small group leaders, meeting with them, and gathering information about them. And so the first thing that we put on there is pray, and that truly is the most important thing. Honestly, if I think about people in ministry a lot, and I know that there's people, for me for example, I know that my parents are praying for me. I know there's people praying for me, but I don't know that there's someone specifically praying for me for how I'm doing my job here at IBC. And so I think it's a beautiful thing to think about you guys praying for these leaders for their whole lives, but also specifically for them as small group leaders. I think it's very powerful, and you may be the only people doing that for them. So I think it's so important. So obviously, we want you to pray for them regularly, whatever that looks like for you. Sometimes I have to set reminders on my phone if there's someone I really want to be praying for, but I can't remember in the hustle and bustle of my day, so I'll do that. Or if you keep a prayer list, we're asking you to add them to your prayer list. We're also asking you to pray with them a couple of times per session, and that may not always be in person. It could be on the phone. If it got real busy, it could be you emailing them to let them know what you're praying for them for, but we want you to interact with them with prayer a couple of times per session. And there's 3 sessions. Yes. There's fall, winter, and spring.
Thank you.
So, and some groups continue to meet in the summertime. These are living organisms. They're all very different. So, and I'm sure as we, as y'all are our guinea pigs, so I'm sure as we get into this, we're going to find that our groups are doing all sorts of different things. So there may be a little bit of flexibility that you'll have with your different group leaders. So as far as meeting is concerned, we're asking you just to meet with them once a session. So once per fall, once per winter, once per spring. And then we also do have those big brunches once per session as well. If you're able to get to those, we do them on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. It'd be a great time to come because you'd be able to see ideally, you'd be able to see all of your leaders at the same time and kind of have a little huddle up with them. So it's beneficial in the sense that you'd get to see them, and also that you might be able to encourage them to come, and maybe they haven't been coming. So
How often are those?
they're just once per session as well. So, and you won't be able to make all of them.
Are those dates established?
They are not yet, but they will be very soon. We are finalizing up all of our fall schedule basically right now. So we just finished up advisory board dates, and next on the agenda is big brunch dates. So y'all will definitely be emailed those so you can get them on your calendar. And they usually meet in this room actually, so. And then finally, the very practical one is gathering information. We have a database with around 100 small groups, but they're probably not all meeting. And a lot of them, the leaders have probably changed. And then also, whenever we form new small groups or when we have new people wanting to join, we need to know which groups are open and closed. And then we need to know what's the demographic. Are they very specific to Flower Mound, or do they have people from all over? That's the kind of just very specific information that we need help gathering. We ask for it over and over and we just don't get it back. So we need help gathering that type of information, and you'll learn more about that part next week. And we'll even give you a form to fill out, like with very specific questions, so we can find out about these groups. And then we want you to help encourage participation in events. So, big brunches, leader retreat. If they've never signed up for the e-letter, sign them up. It's just their email address. And then also, if there was one more. Oh, some of our leaders have never actually been trained at small group leader training. So just asking, hey, have you ever been trained? Well, you should look into that since you're a small group leader. So basic stuff like that we feel like sometimes gets a little out of hand for us because we can't keep up with it all.
So you said there's 100 today?
Well, yeah, around that. Isn't that about right, Henry?
Yeah, there's 100 groups on the database, but we're not sure that all the groups are still meeting. That's where I'm the guy that works on the database and makes all the group assignments, so I've been out there quite a bit. But we don't know that some of those are still valid. I mean, Brian's given them names and assigned people to them, but whether they're active, whether they've met, they've not met, they've dissolved. Sometimes I will call somebody up that will make assignments and say, we got some for your group. So, well, our group isn't meeting anymore.
Okay.
So the database is out of date. Next week I'm going to talk a little bit about how we need to get the leaders to engage and get that information. We're going to train them, but we're going to ask you to make sure that they follow up on that so that it's current. So right now there's 100 names out there. We can't say there's 100 groups, but we're saying there's 100 groups. At the end of next semester, we may go back and say, well, there's 80. We don't know that. You had said meeting with the leaders. Is there any intention for us to actually spend any one time going down and meeting with the group?
I figured that would come up. That's really going to be up to you. Okay. And this week in particular, we're going to talk about taking care of them as leaders. Next week, Ryan's going to talk more about how you help care for their group by caring for them. And it may be that you end up feeling like you need to go, or maybe you call Ryan and say, hey, maybe you should go check out this group. Like the conflict is weird, and so you may encounter some of that. But we don't want you to feel like that's all on your shoulders. So if it's a situation where either you just want to go because it's really fun, go for it. I mean, there's really no limit on what you can do. But if it's a situation where you feel like you really need to because there's some serious stuff going on, that's up to you, but you can always pull us in on that too, because we want to be here for you, but we just don't know if that stuff's going on, and you're probably going to be the first ones to find out. So Ryan does periodically try, to pop in on as many small groups as he can, but he just can't.
I don't want to take us off track.
No, that's totally fine.
But one thing is, if you're talking with the leader, you may not get the vibe of what's in the group unless you actually go.
Right.
So you may want to consider that.
Yeah, definitely, especially
the
if you feel like
quality
something
control
weird
piece
is
has
going
to go
on.
to the front.
Yeah, especially if you feel like something weird is going on. But again, if that's something that you feel like I'm stretched to the limit, you could always call Ryan, and we'd be able to step in and help, because we don't want to overload you, especially this first time when we're still not sure exactly what this is going to end up looking like. So.
Okay. You keep saying you call Ryan. Don't forget there's an advisory board that can field some of those.
Oh yeah, well, and what I mean by call Ryan is he would then
Call Katie.
He would know who to send that to. Yeah, definitely, because he would then either send it to me or to one of you guys if he couldn't do it as well. So yeah. Oh, we're real good at delegating.
So is there a list of the advisory board?
We do have one, and I have not written that down, but I can easily email that out to you guys. Ideally, when I send you a calendar for the year, I could then send you the advisory board names as well and give you all that information.
I was gonna say, you said also encourage them to do small group training, leader training. Do you know when the next one's going to be?
Yes, we are having our retreats on the 7th of September, and our next training is on the 14th of September. Now, I'm not sure how much you'll have connected with your leaders by then. So it may be that you keep them in the loop for the spring semester, and we also have a document of basically verbatim what the training is. So depending on the person, sometimes we can just send them the information. Some people may need a little more work personally. So we have a few options for training, even if there's not an actual training coming up.
What was the training?
The 14th. The 7th is our retreat, and the 14th is training.
What's the retreat?
The retreat is something we do once a year, and it's similar to big brunches. It's just trying to enhance them as leaders and encourage them. So this year we have Scott McClellan, and who's on staff, who just finished writing his book about story, and then Mark Matlock are going to be speaking, and the whole day is going to be about story, about telling our stories in our groups and creating a story as a small group for how we're engaging in mission. So it's more encouragement and growing as a leader. When
So
you
it's
do
an
that.
all-day thing, yeah?
It's an all-day thing. It's in Grapevine this year at Palace Theater on Main Street.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that where Ryan's gonna introduce to the leaders the concept of coaches?
I believe so. Yeah, that's the current plan, because that's going to be the first time we'll have them together. But I will send y'all an email with all the dates so that you don't have to
I'm in Orlando that day, so.
remember it all. You're in Orlando.
I normally book about 90 days out,
Yeah.
so that's.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll definitely send that. And if y'all can't make it to the retreat, that's fine. We didn't ask that of you, so don't feel, if you can, that's great. But we didn't ask that of you guys. So that's more of a fun thing for y'all at this point. So I don't want y'all to feel overwhelmed by the whole of our calendar, because y'all don't, you know what I mean? We want y'all to.
Do you know how late that'll go on the 7th?
It'll go till 4 o'clock.
No.
You won't be back for So that's basically the time that we're talking about, and so I just wanted to hit that first, because that way you weren't thinking the whole time, well, what exactly am I being asked to do? If you, well, actually, before we go on, I want y'all to talk with each other and kind of introduce, a lot of y'all already know each other, so that's great. But go ahead and discuss with each other, just quickly, one at a time, what maybe it has looked like for you to have someone step into your life. It doesn't have to be specifically a coach. It could be someone that mentored you at work or in your faith or a teacher. But just to talk about what was the most helpful type of relationship that you've had like that, where someone has stepped in to specifically encourage you in what you're doing. So just share an experience. I mean, if you don't have one, that's totally fine. But if y'all are able to share a leadership experience with each other about a way someone else helped you, that's what I would love for y'all to discuss now.
All you have most vigorous handshake.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately, he passed away about 2.5 years ago. The guy who recruited me to a company about 20 years ago, or a little over 20 years ago, actually became a very good friend of mine, even when I wasn't reporting to him afterwards. And to the point where he wasn't ever afraid to pick up the phone and just ask me 2 or 3 questions. And those 2 or 3 questions would actually unfold into 45 minutes of goodness, because he would be able to hear enough stuff and then rearrange it. Stuff that I was vibrating about or stuff like that I couldn't speak with anyone else. He was remarkable, but it all started with a question. And it wasn't about preaching to me. It was drawing it out of me, and he would never tell me what to do. He would always ask me a question to weigh the values that were before it. And that was amazing coaching.
I like that a lot, that you're not telling, because I think it's very hard when you're a leader sometimes to not just take it where you want to go. Of a small group, or I've been in small groups where the leader does that, and you don't really want them to take control and tell you what to do. It's not their show, and yet, just as humans, it's hard sometimes for us not to just do that. I like that.
I had a guy that started discipling right after I came from the Lord back in 1975. So, and I just talked to him last week. Yeah, he was. We had regular meetings, and sometimes it was one-on-one, but sometimes with a group of other believers at the same level. We would look into God's Word, and likewise. Bible says about, not being, drunk, and this is, so he didn't say no, he didn't say yes, he just pointed to the word. God told me no.
His ears were plucked up for a little while there, but after a while. I would say for mine, it's not a specific person, but when I was in BSF leadership, I just loved that if one of my leaders would call, they wouldn't just say, I'll pray for you. They would pray right then on the phone. And I've been a Christian my whole life, and I've never had anyone do that with me or seen that modeled. And wow, people they're amazed that you do that with them. It's just really powerful. I think it's a great way to build fellowship, to let someone know that I'm willing to pray for them on the phone, or in person too. But so often it comes up in a phone call when you have a group, you're talking to them on the phone. And I think that's just one of my favorite things about being a leader and having others that are in my flock, if you will. Is knowing that if they bring something to me, that I take it seriously and pray for them right then. Follow up with a note or something, but that immediate prayer is awesome.
Well, I don't have anyone specific, but I've always had a group of really close friends for 30-something years that we're tight. We pray. It's a prayer warrior group, so it's a very safe, comforting group where I can go to them with anything. I've always wanted somebody I can just call anytime. I mean, I've got friends I can call anytime, but I think it's such a blessing and a privilege to have a mentor in your life.
Kind of like Lynn, actually very much like that, same last names.
Yeah, same color today.
Yeah, Courtney. I've never had a mentor, and I really felt that was I didn't have a Christian mentor, I didn't have a business mentor, I didn't have that, and I was just a boy. I lost my dad very early in life, and I thought, okay, what am I going to do about that? So when IBC started doing a mentoring program, I assumed the role of mentor, and I had mentored a lot of other young men because I didn't have that. I said, there got to be other people out there looking for that kind of a matchup. And I've mentored, we've done marriage mentoring, we've done couples, and so we've taken, even though we didn't have it, we have fallen into the role of becoming mentors. We do that with our small group. Lynn said she wishes she had somebody that she can call. She gets calls all the time about, what about this, what about that, how do you handle this, and I got this issue. And to listen to her is like, whoa, that's neat. So we haven't had one, but we've kind of assumed that role. And you're right, if they don't ask the question, they don't want to hear the answer you got for them.
My situation sounds all Henry's. I can't really put out my finger on anybody. I would say it was a mentor for me, spiritually, business. I always seem to find myself in a leadership role or a mentoring role. So I'm sure there was somebody that came in and out of my life, but I was so focused on leading and giving. I would welcome that.
I am very much like Barb. I do not recall having a mentor, and maybe it's because, I was a stay-at-home mom kind of thing, but I have had small groups in my past where they have given me support and guidance and things like that. I won't go into the long detailed stories, but God has put us in the right place at the right time to be involved in small groups that could speak directly into our lives. So
Pretty amazing to see how different people were brought into our lives at just the right moment.
That's awesome. Thanks. I get to join in since our room is tiny. I love what y'all are talking about because in the book that I told you about, it talks about that coaches can be, and mentors can be one of the most high impact volunteer leaders in the church. And obviously we're not keeping score about impact. But even just hearing you speak, and this is the list in this book, and hearing y'all speak, I'm like, check, check, check all of of these things, coaches can inspire leaders to have a deeper walk with Christ. And you can, and sometimes it's just by being asked, you know, how is your spiritual relationship? And you're like, it's terrible, but I'm a little more motivated now because someone's actually asking me for the first time and I don't know how long. Coaches can draw out untapped potential in leaders. You have the ability to maybe see something in a leader and encourage them in a way that nobody else is. Coaches can encourage, obviously, and they can give permission to rest or to risk. You may be able to see where they're overloaded, or you should really try that with your group. You know what I mean? You should, and because there is a delicate balance there, and you may be able to see that. And coaches can give the space and the time to listen. And I really feel like that's, especially for this first year with our coaches, that's going to be our focus, is giving space and time to listen to coaches. And we'll talk about that more on that next handout that's in there. As I said earlier, really, and here's the way the training is broken down. So today we're talking just generally, here's what a coach is, here's the mission statement. And then I'm also going to be talking about caring for your leader specifically. And then next week, Ryan will talk to you about how we care for that group by caring for the leader, and then how we need to have the information gathered. So we're talking about care in two ways, caring for the leader and caring for the group. And remember, we're change agents that's encouraging growth so that can happen. Deep relationships can be formed and advancing the kingdom can happen. So what we want to see really is the leaders being cared for, so that we can assess where they are, and then ultimately we can figure out where their small groups are. And so as far as taking care of our leaders go, we're talking on this page called Leader Care about exactly what that's going to mean. And it's 4 things. It's building relationships with them, listening deeply to them, being an encourager, and providing care. And those are the 4 things at the top of that page. And then we'll kind of break them down a little bit. And if you don't have the page, let me know. Hopefully everybody does. I was pre-vacation when I put the books together, so you never know what got missed. I was ready to get out of town. So if something's missing, let me know. So as far as building deep relationships, our first one, really what we're asking you to do is just to talk with them. And by talking with them and building a relationship with them, you'll be modeling authenticity for them. But we don't want you, and we'll talk about that when we get to the listening deeply portion, we really want this to be about them. And then as you have opportunity to model that same authenticity back. So for building real relationships, we want you to come to a general understanding of their spiritual journey. Especially at first, when you don't really know what else to talk about, well, start asking them about their life. Because really, that's what we want to do. We want to care for them, and we want them to feel heard. So we want you to find out about their walk with God, about their family. How's that going? How's their relationship with kids, if they have any, with wives or husbands or ex-wives or ex-husbands, all of that stuff. We would love for you just to ask, just get to know them like you would really anybody else. You're just being intentional. Because really, I've said it a million times, if they don't feel cared for as leaders, they're probably not leading their groups well. Yeah?
Some of us are doing this as couples.
Mm-hmm.
When we meet with the leaders,
Yeah.
should we...
How's your marriage?
Yeah. Should we attempt to meet with them as couples?
That's not really something I've thought specifically about whether you should, and really, I
Let
think...
Ryan answer that next week.
Yeah, honestly, we really are learning as we go here. So these are all very good. I've already made a note. Put the schedule in next week's folders, so because we're figuring this out. But yeah, I think it may be something that you could decide on as you go. It may end up being easier for y'all to meet separately sometimes with work schedules and whatnot, or you may want to meet all together the first time, and then kind of decide as you see what's going on, and maybe do both.
Do check-ins, guys to guys.
Yeah, and especially if you're emailing or texting, it'd be easier to have the women emailing or texting the women.
Well, I would feel comfortable saying to another woman, if there are any issues you'd like to talk about, if you want to just talk to another woman.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't necessarily want to.
I don't see where it always has to be couple and couple.
I don't think so either.
It could be both.
Yeah.
For different issues.
Mm-hmm. And like if it's that first meeting and you want to meet all together just to get to know each other, cool. And then, yeah.
One thing that hit me out of this,
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to take notes if your memory's not good.
Yes, and you can tell them. You can say, Stephen minister, and I have had to, so I meet one-on-one with someone who's in need of care here at the church, and I've had to tell, particularly one past Stephen minister, that I've got to take some notes because there was so much information, specifically if you have someone who's sharing a lot of biographical information or they've had a particularly intense walk, and there's a lot of stuff that you want to remember or specific dates. And I just told her up front, hey, I'm writing stuff down, not because I'm giving this to anyone, but because I just want to remember so I can pray for you. So yeah, you can definitely take notes if you want. You don't have to. We obviously want to protect confidentiality, and you can let them know, like, I'm not sharing this with anyone, and you wouldn't unless they're harming themselves or someone else. So yeah, definitely let them know I'm not sharing this with anyone, but I can't, remember everything, specifically dates and things like that. I love to remember birthdays, or if someone important to them has passed away, I like to know when, so I can send them an encouraging note around that same time. So that's really hits the next one, understanding their life history, understanding just their heart. So really, building the relationship, you just want to get to know them. I mean, I think that's pretty simple. Y'all seem like y'all have experience with that already, so that's good. On the listen deeply section, which is the next one, I think they make that its whole section in the book that I read because it's so hard for us to do. I need constant reminders, even with my Stephen ministers, to just be quiet and listen. So I love just the tips they give. Listen more than you're talking. If you came away from a meeting and you were talking a ton, maybe next time try to cut down on how much you were talking and try to listen more. And sometimes, especially when you're first in a relationship with someone, they may not talk a lot. So it may take time to get to the place where they're really talking. Or it could be that you're meeting with the world's healthiest leader, and I mean, you never know. I mean, it could end up being more of just a friendship than a coaching relationship, and that's fine too. Obviously, y'all done this before, or you've been in relationships like this with other people, so you'll be able to figure that out. But actively engage their story. Don't get preoccupied with what you want to say next. All good tips for all relationships in life. Ask for clarification if you need it. And keep the focus on them. And also, what I love is fighting the temptation to move too quickly to solutions, because they really may just be venting. I remember a time when Jeff and I were really busy. I was working full-time at DTS. I was a student part-time. We were doing apartment life, and we were leading worship for the college group here. We were overcommitted, but it was just, there wasn't really anything we could drop at that moment. And I was doing a conference at DTS. I was doing catering because I planned events. And some sweet ladies from my home church in Wichita Falls were there for the conference. And they were like, how are you doing? You look so tired. And I was like, well, we are, we're really tired. We've got a lot going on. And they immediately just went into like, well, here's what you should be doing. And I'm like, this is not helping me. Yeah. We're just at a stage in our life where we're incredibly busy, just being prepared to move into the next things that God has for us. So really, it would have just been better for me if they'd been encouraging and listened to me. And then, of course, they went back and told my mom that I needed more sleep. So she called me, and I'm like, oh my gosh. This is why I'm glad I don't live in Wichita Falls anymore. But it's a funny example, but, we all try to move too quickly to solutions, and sometimes problems just have to be spoken, and they just need to sit for a little bit. But we also do need to listen beyond their words. Obviously, watching body language is important. Maybe even if you're meeting with a couple, watch their body language with one another. If you're meeting with someone that's not talking a lot, you can tell if they're nervous by how they're, sitting. And that might help you feel more encouraged that, well, they didn't talk, but they seemed nervous. It's probably hard for them to meet somebody new and start talking about their life first thing,
And when the principals come in for a visit, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we really don't want them to feel like that. We really want you to encourage them that we're not asking you to come back and tell us their stories. We're really not. We are just wanting to make sure they're heard and that they're cared for. Obviously, if they have a deeper need, and you can tell them, this is just that we can tell if you need help from us, but we're not, their testimony, you're not reporting their testimony back to us. We don't want to hear it. I mean, we want to know, but we want to know that they're telling you, not that, I can't remember all those testimonies anyway. So, if you want to move deeper in a certain topic with them, this is on the back part, you can always ask permission, Is it okay if I ask you more about your father's death, for example? You can always do that, and if they don't want to talk, they'll tell you no. So, and if your mind wanders, you can always say, you know what, I just lost focus for a second. Can you repeat that? It's not that big a some good tips with listening deeply. Also, there's not really any notes on this, but for being an encourager, we just want them to have someone that is in their corner that's encouraging them, especially if their groups hit a hard spot where, for example, I was a part of a small group that, and we actually don't even meet anymore, although we're still very involved in each other's lives. So something still worked, even though our meeting regularly didn't. But the childcare thing was a beating for us. We really couldn't get past a good time to meet with our kids. And the reason we still see each other is because we still all get together with our kids and do things together. It was just easier for us to be less structured. But that was hard for us. And there was specifically one girl in our group who really struggled. She was very type A, that we weren't meeting all the time. And you may have a group leader like that. It's just killing them that people keep canceling. And they can't meet because their kid's sick again, or so-and-so is on a business trip again and he's not here and he hasn't been here for 3 weeks. Sometimes that's really hard on a person. They'll take it personally and internalize it, and they may just need some encouragement in those areas. But they may also need encouragement to grow spiritually, to read a leadership book about something. And we have a lot of resources too. If you find that you've got a leader who's really struggling with their walk with God, and you need help coming up with a resource maybe to offer them, just let us know and we'll help with that. If you have a leader who really needs to grow maybe in conflict management or something, they love leading a group, but man, they're not doing a good job with that, then let us know and we can suggest resources. So you can always ask too, would you like for me to figure out some resources for you to grow in this area? It's always good to ask first, because then you're not offering solutions without being asked. So you can ask permission for anything if you want, and let us know if you need any help, because we want to encourage them in their hard times and also encourage them to grow if they need to. Also, just to consider different mediums for encouragement. We are all very busy, but it is really easy for me to take something that has spoken to me in my quiet time that day and send it to somebody else and encourage them with the same thing that God has used. So, streamline your day. Think, what? God really spoke to me through my utmost for his highest today. I'm going to share this with my small group leader. Or I'm going to send them a text with this awesome verse. Or I'm going to send them a quick email. I mean, there's lots of ways to encourage in between meeting times without having to actually meet face to face. So just consider ways that you might encourage them. And again, all your small group leaders may not need a lot of encouragement, but you may have some that will. So you can also do the old-fashioned thing and write them a note and send it in the mail. So it's always fun to get mail.
I'm going to build on an email that you sent me the other day when you sent it to Katie, and that is if you're going to email a group leader and you got something that came in as encouraging, you just send it out to them individually, or do a BCC, so that it doesn't look like you're just blasting it out to all the leaders.
That's true, yeah. If you want to send it to all your leaders at the same time, blind copy all of them, and they don't know that.
So it looks like you're connecting directly to them and you're not just going through the motions.
Because you do mean it for all of them. But if they saw it as a group email, it might seem less personal. Yeah, I think that's great.
That was your suggestion.
Well, I get better responses from groups if it's blind copied and they don't know that it's sent to people. It's weird. People will respond if they think it just came to them, and if it's a group email, they won't. So yeah, if you get emails just to you from me, you can be suspicious. You should probably send this to a lot of people. But you will be suspicious now.
And when you write it, don't use you plural.
Yes, yeah.
You all. Don't say you all in the middle of that.
But I love to share, even with my Stephen ministry folks. So if God spoke to me that morning and it was encouraging, it's an encouraging word, and it's good to send stuff like that out. So, and then before we move on, actually, this last section, provide care, I have another packet to go through with you. Are there any questions about any of that, or any suggestions, or anything like that as we move through? I feel like a lot of you have been trained in how to do some of this before, but if you haven't and you need me to stop, please tell me, because I don't want to go too fast. So, the next page, or the next portion, is providing care, and you can pull out the next worksheet because it's a packet. We want you, if you have a leader that's in crisis, we do want to provide care for them, but we also don't want you to feel the pressure of doing all of that yourself, because that could be very intense. The benefit of a coach providing care for a leader is that they're going to see you model how to provide care. It's going to teach them a lot about how to do it for their group. we want you to remember also the first thing on this provide care list is that hurting people value your presence over your words or anything else. If your leader is going through a crisis, the fact that you're sitting there asking them how they're doing is truly the most important thing you can do. And praying for them. Those are the most important things. So there are, though, if you see a leader who is in crisis and needs help, look for ways that they might need help, ways that you can serve. If it's something that you feel like you can do, go ahead and do it. But remember, IBC has tons and tons of resources. And you also have the advisory board and the staff here that can help as well if you have a leader in crisis. But this is a list, and actually it's already outdated because Alpha just changed to the table. And I'll try to get that new email address. That very first one is now called the table. And I don't have the new email address yet. But I can get that for you. But just knowing what it's called will help, because if you needed to call up to the information desk, you could and ask. Also, you could also call Ryan or I, and we could direct you.
Is there a definition of some of these? For instance, I don't know what FPU is.
FPU is Financial Peace University. Mm-hmm.
But is there a place we can go to find out?
Most of this stuff should be on the website, but I'll kind of walk through it real quick before we move on. Alpha or the table is for people with questions. You very likely could have a leader, or the leader might have someone in their group, and Ryan will touch on this in group care. You will probably use this for your leader and to help your leader with their group.
Do the leaders get copies?
The leaders do have copies of this. We did this at our last big brunch, and we sent it out, I believe, in the e-letter. So technically the leaders have it, but if they didn't go to the big brunch or they're not connected to the e-letter, then they don't have it. So it's good for you to have it too, because this could help both of you all. So yeah, Alpha's for people, well, which is now the table, you know, those having doubts and want to discuss their doubts in a safe place. Budget coaching is exactly what it sounds like. So is cancer care, counseling, death in the family.
Now, does counseling include Stephen's ministry?
It does not. There is a separate, actually, you know what? Write down Stephen Ministry, because this is the list we gave to our Stephen ministers. So Stephen Ministry is not on here, but your contact for Stephen Ministry is Ryan or Sherry Sharp.
What is Stephen Ministry?
Stephen Ministry is basically a step down from counseling. So it's for somebody who's going through something in their life and they really need to walk with someone through it. It's not counseling, but it's someone that's committing to meet with you at least once a week, or at most, I guess, once a week. That will meet with you once a week, if sometimes less if you need it, to see you through something in your life, whether it is divorce or a major life transition, or just a spiritual struggle. So it can be anything from something major, like someone in my family died and I'm having trouble dealing with it, and I just need someone to speak to. Because you know how it is when you deal, sometimes even your spouse, like, you need someone objective to listen to you, that's outside of the situation. And that's what you get. It's a highly confidential relationship. And really the main focus for Stephen Ministers is to listen.
Is that typically short term?
It's really whatever they need.
It is, okay. It's
Uh-huh.
available for
We
one
have,
visit.
well, and they're set up, Stephen Ministers are equipped to know if someone needs to be referred elsewhere.
Yeah.
We're equipped to see warning signs. So it's a really great place if you have somebody that, and it may be a leader that's just very needy. They're wanting to meet with you all the time. Or it's a person in their group that's wanting to meet with the leader all the time to help get through and talk through something. It's a perfect candidate to ask if they'd be interested in getting a Stephen Minister. And we truly see folks, we also see folks that are doing counseling in tandem. So sometimes if the counselor's giving permission, you know, this person's dealing with depression, they're seeing a Stephen Minister and a counselor. So it can be anything from depression to a death in the family, a miscarriage, to some people have just moved. It's a major life shift and they are struggling. And so you just walk with them through that time. So that's what a Stephen Minister is. It's a fantastic resource, because truly it gives them that pastoral care, really, but on a long-term basis. We also have people that have ongoing illness or ongoing injury, and so a Stephen Minister will go visit them weekly in the hospital. So it's great for someone who's also, you know, bedridden for a long period of time, and a pastor just can't make it every week. A Stephen Minister is a perfect person for someone like that as well.
So going back to counseling,
Uh-huh.
what are the resources that we're offering these days?
Well, it's kind of case by case basis. Kim Yankner is really our contact, and she actually does counsel some people herself. But we also work with a lot of local counselors, and in many cases we'll pay for some counseling sessions to get somebody started. Now, we don't tell them that, but that's how we do it. And I know of someone recently who we offered 6 free sessions to with a particular counselor to get them going, and to get them headed there. So that's kind of where we are. We still delegate. Kim does some herself. We do make sure though that they get connected with someone. So Death in the Family is Donna O'Reilly. She'll help coordinate with those sorts of things. Our divorce care group goes through Kim. We have Financial Peace. We have a grief share group. That's for someone who's lost a loved one. It's a support group. Some of these are very self-explanatory. IBC Clinic, Charles Pierce is your contact if you need more info on that. The Job Transition Workshop, the Marriage Ministry, the Men's Ministry. We have a National Alliance for Mental Illness group that meets here, and that's an amazing group, and it's very likely that your small groups may have someone or have a couple who has a child who could really benefit from this group. So we've got Special Needs Ministry, Adults with Special Needs, Recovery. Shelter from the Storm is for women who've been victims of sexual abuse. So that's obviously a very sensitive topic, but if it comes up, it's a great group. Our Single Parents Ministry is fantastic. So definitely, that's a fantastic recommendation for someone. Our school partnerships, our small groups. Tapestry is our adoption and foster care group, our women's ministry, and our young adults. So those are great recommendations. I'm not going to go through all of the rest, but these are social services that are available. Now, again, we don't want you to feel overwhelmed with this. We can help you. If you find a need, we can help you figure out where to send someone, because our benevolence team here has been doing this for years. So don't forget the benevolence ministry either. I don't know why that's not on here, but you can always call the front desk about benevolence. That's actually where most of our benevolence calls go, because people will call and say, hey, I need food or I need help with bills. And they'll be sent up here to fill out a form. So the front desk is the contact for benevolence. So you never know what your leader might need, but it's also good for you just to know all of this in case. Now this is, that list of the outside resources, that's what we have at our front desk and, what we give people here on staff. But again, if you need help figuring out where to send someone, people up here have been doing it for years. So does that overwhelm you, or does that help you feel more equipped?
It's great.
Okay. Sometimes when I hand this out, I'm like, I don't know if people feel more lost now, or if they feel like they've been helped. Okay. It's just a large packet, but there's a lot of needs out there. And the benefit of being at a larger church is that we can help meet some of those needs. So again, we love to delegate around here. So we showed you what your requirements are. Those really are the only requirements of you. Anything beyond that is completely up to you, but don't let yourself get overwhelmed at any point. Call us and deflect. we will help with anything. So we just know that when you're dealing with people, you don't know what you're going to get. So we wanted to be, and I've got to kind of not rush, but I need to go a little quicker through these next pages. These last 2 pages, actually these last 3, are tools for you to use as you're preparing to meet with a coach for the first time. They did this for us in Stephen Ministry. They basically mapped out exactly what we would say to someone when we met them for their first time. And it seemed silly at first, but then when you're about to go meet with someone for the first time, you're like, I need you to walk me through it. So that's really what these last 3 things are. The first page is coaching conversations. And this is a fantastic page to revisit right before you go meet with your coach, because it's going to remind you what you're doing. Of the guidelines for that meeting, and I know you've got to go. If you have any questions about any of this, just let us know. He is one of our fantastic vest wearers out in the parking lot. So he's.
Do not run me over.
Don't run him over. Wearing the vest.
I can't move like I used to.
So really the best way we can care for them is not to run them over. So these are just some guidelines just to help calm your nerves before you meet with someone, to remind you of your purpose. We're focusing on the relationship more than on reporting. Yes, we want to know how these groups are doing, but don't focus on that. Focus on your relationship with this person. We care about them, and we want them to know that, and we don't want them to feel like it's the small group ministry checking in. You know, we really would rather this just be a relationship. We want to focus on nurture more than skill development. You may have heard me say that you can encourage them in their leadership skills. And you're like, well, I don't know how to do that. Focus on just nurturing and listening to them more than that. And if something comes up, you can ask for help. Just focus on taking care of them. Focus on spiritual concerns more than organizational issues. Before we can get to the heart of their small group, we want to make sure they're growing and connected with the Lord and feeling loved. We want to focus on encouragement more than the management and on connecting with them as much as we can. I know we're not going to, we're not requiring a ton of you, but don't worry if that first conversation with them wasn't high impact. Just focus on connecting with them, sending them those texts, meeting them again at a big brunch. Some of these relationships may take a really long time to take off. It may be that your last meeting with them in the spring was your best one. So don't be discouraged yourself if the conversations aren't high impact from the beginning.
I want to ask you a different question.
Okay, I got it.
Will you folks be modeling this with us?
Ideally, in some sense, yeah. And I haven't talked with Ryan specifically, but I do think we're going to have some kind of a check-in with you guys as well throughout the year. We don't want to do too much because we don't want to overload you. Hopefully the big brunches will be encouraging for you and your leaders because it's broad topics, and then hopefully we can check in with all of you as well. I'm sure Ryan, especially those of you he knows personally, he'll be checking in with you anyway when he sees you. So we're probably going to have an organized meeting, but we're trying to be very careful not to overload your schedule.
It's just easier to do programs than it is people.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't just want to set up another meeting and then bog you down if we don't have to. So,
How and when will coaches be assigned to leaders?
It should be right around this next month or so as we start placing people in small groups. We basically have all of our small group leaders sectioned off into little groups. So probably at the end of your training actually is when you'll get your first list. Now, again, our records aren't accurate. You may find that there's only 2 groups out of like 3 or 4 that we gave you.
That would function.
Yeah, so we may have to then give you some more. Well, hey, try these. So it may feel like an exercise in futility, but again, you're our guinea pigs. And we actually do need to know though if the groups are meeting or not. So even just you calling and finding out that they're not meeting is incredibly helpful to us. So I'm not, some of you may find that you've got 5 groups that are all meeting and they're all ready to meet with you, and some of you may find that you have 2. But we'll be able to have others to give you to try in that case. So, but we do have some people grouped already to hand you at the end.
At the end of this first year, I'd really like to encourage you to have all of the coaches meet.
Oh, definitely. We are going to love your feedback. Yes, we're going to actually really pick your brains at the end of this because we want to know what's been working and what hasn't. So yes, definitely on that. At least I do. And I want more than a survey. Like I really will want to talk with you guys and figure out what's been going on. And again, I think we're going to be meeting with you all, about halfway through just to see how everything's going. But I feel like we're probably going to know because we'll see a lot of you. Because there's just about 15 or so. There's couples, but it's just about 15. So I think we'll be checking in with you sooner than that. So let's see. Number 6 was just focusing on asking questions more than fixing problems. And on the back, before you meet, pray for them. Prepare, and these next tools will help you prepare. Personalize, and basically the personalized part is just if you are meeting with 5 different small group leaders, just make sure that you like you've said, you've written down, that you remember, personalize it. Don't forget to go back and ask them about what y'all talked about last time. And then perspective, the perspective portion is to take notes on the meeting you just had and gain some perspective, right away. How is this group doing? Write all that stuff down, make notes before you forget. So pray before you meet them, prepare for your meeting, make sure you review what you talked about last time, and then make sure you then review the meeting that you just had so that you can maximize your time with these people each week.
Is this going to be available electronically?
Yeah, I can send you this planning tool because you'll need more than one of these. So yeah, the next one is a planning tool. You may not fill out every question on this. This isn't something you're going to hand back to us. It's just a tool for you to use before you meet with someone. And actually the first time you meet, some of this doesn't even apply because it talks about what you talked about last time. But it's just something to go through as you pray and prepare for this person. questions you can look through. I don't have a ton of time, so I'm not going to go through it, but it's self-explanatory. And then we added, and Ryan will give you more questions next week, but this last page is specifically related to caring for them as a leader. Ryan will provide you some questions for things to ask about how to care for their group, but my week is just about caring for them as a leader, so all these questions are towards that. Just conversation starters for you to keep in mind. You may have someone who is giving you one-word answers, and nothing from you is making them go any deeper, so you may need a few questions to ask. So this will just give you some ideas on things that you can ask them. Some of these are very basic questions. Some of them are digging deeper types of questions. So it's just, there's some verses at the top to help you be encouraged from the word before you get started. And then, some of the easy ones, how did you come to IBC? Yeah. Start with those and you can go from there. But it's 10:08, so I don't want to keep you too long if you need to move to your next thing, but I want to ask questions. Yep.
And this comes back to F1, which we're going to talk about next week. That's the database.
Yes.
If we get assigned 6 groups and we call up and we find out that 3 of those groups are active and we talk to them about the conversation of how to make sure their group is active, 3 of them we find don't exist, who goes back and changes those?
Let Katie know.
Let Katie know.
Well, if you emailed me, I would forward it to Katie.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we just need to know that if they don't exist, we need to go back to Katie.
Let us
She's
know.
going to maintain the database.
She is, yes. She's going to help us clean that up. So Katie, honestly though, if you emailed Ryan, myself, or Katie and I both work very part-time. So we're used to getting emails and shooting them off to other people. But Katie is the keeper of F1 now, which I'm excited about. I don't mind doing F1. I just have a lot on my plate, so I'm happy to hand some of it off.
What is Katie's, it's K what?
K Guerin, Guerin. It's definitely not phonetic, so it's good to spell it out.
Spell that again?
Guerin. It's K Guerin at irvingbible.org. And I'm planning on emailing you all of your contacts, me, Ryan, and Katie, our advisory board, and our calendar, because I didn't include that in the folder. That was a good catch. So our next session 1 group will have it in their folders because I'll have gone through this before. So what else? Any other questions about that? So yeah, this was really that first portion that we want to take care of them as leaders. And then Ryan will kind of talk about how and he'll also, when he goes through how to take care of their groups, he'll touch on some of what we've talked about in small group training. Like here's what we're asking them to do as leaders for their groups so that you'll know. So he'll go back over that. So just because you haven't been to a small group leader training, you'll still feel equipped. And then we'll also be able to provide you with the small group leader training materials as well if you want to go back and just immerse yourself. Or you can come to the training on the 14th. But if you can't, we can get you the materials because we know you'll read it.
The last thing I guess that I have is, as we run and meet these small group leaders, if we want to expand the coaches for next year, kind of keep an eye out.
Yes, if you've got your super healthy small group leader.
Might be a candidate to join this group. That's the best way to expand this is to find somebody that is blessed and they do a lot of this already.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And I think that you may also see leaders that are wanting to transition their leadership to someone else in the group, and you may ask them, well, what are you thinking you're going to do next? So yeah, I think that's great advice. And really, we don't want this to be overwhelming. I hate giving out so much info because I'm like, really, what we want is very simple. But okay, good. Well, the more handouts I made, I was like, this is too much. Well, not that I have any handle. I just didn't want to overwhelm. So it didn't feel overwhelming.
A majority of this is tools.
Tools, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Well, very good. Well, and you'll get some more next week. But I appreciate you all being our guinea pig class of coaches. Well, and every church is so different with how they handle this.
Yeah.
So.
I want to tell you a reverse story opposite of us. When we first moved here, had one in college, one about to go off to college. We were new to Texas, new at IBC. We had a new job. I was sort of
That's everything.
hanging. Yeah. Menopause. all of it.
I mean, that's a lot.
It was a lot. It was a lot. And so Pete actually sent me to a job training company that was a friend of his. And one of the things that we discovered that I'd always dog, and she suggested that I take the dog into, dog therapy.
Okay, cool.
And, we were one of the first people to pass the class. And I
That's
actually
awesome.
did go to the Atria in Carrollton, to the, Alzheimer's unit there. And, so it filled a great need for me. I got to do it with my dog. It was close to where I live. I mean, everything
That's so
fit
awesome.
so beautifully.
Mhm.
I never got a single anything from, it was through a different church. We hadn't even found IBC yet. Nothing. I mean, I just hung out there, and I managed to go for a year. And I was just going by myself every other week or something. There was nothing. I think maybe once during the year they had a gathering of everybody who was doing it, and I was out of town and not able to go.
Yeah.
And there wasn't anything the matter with what I was doing. The people loved it, my dog loved it, but I had nobody helping me feel part of something.
Yeah.
Or helping me get better, or giving me new ideas, or encouraging me, or making me even feel like they gave a rip that I was doing it.
Yeah, you feel like you're
And
floating out there.
I just had to stop.
Mhm.
And I mean, what a difference it makes to know that, and I don't wonder, but there might be some leaders who maybe feel that way.
Yeah.
Not to that extent, because IBC hasn't ignored them.
Well,
But
we're trying, but y'all are really gonna help us.
We
Yeah.
really need to have somebody else walk through stuff
Yeah.
like that with us.
Yeah.
Especially when we're volunteers, not
Yeah.
professionals.
Yeah.
Like you said, stuff comes up, so
And they-
kudos for.
Well, and I
starting
feel
this.
like we just have been seeing, like, because Ryan and I tried to split up all the names and contact everyone, and we've got so much to do, you know, so that's why we put the big brunches in place, but they're not all coming.
Yeah.
And we really want to establish a culture of small groups here. You know, some churches say you have to join a small group to be a part of it, and we're not doing that, but we want it to be a part of the culture, and so you guys are gonna help us to do that.
Appreciate you taking the effort and putting the time into doing this, because I know how valuable it is.
Well, we're so excited, and y'all are an awesome group. We have a really great group of people that are gonna do this, so.
I was pleased to hear you had so many.
Yeah, I know.
I know how the response would be.
Ryan, they're all fired.
Oh,
They're
you-
not-
oh.
Just kidding.
It's too much work. We don't
Too
wanna
much.
do it.
I overwhelmed them.
I knew I never should have stepped out. I was gonna get Rob in there.
I tell you what, Ryan, I'll appreciate this. I was kind of skeptical about the whole launch thing for small groups. I was kind of like, this is kind of a weird way to go about
The
it.
launch pad.
We are in such an awesome small group.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
well, and y'all were our group that formed out of
Yeah.
Launchpad, right?
Yeah, we were.
Y'all are an awesome song group. We hung out at the baseball game with you.
Yeah.
And it's a very interesting group because somebody proposed not meeting in July, and I think everybody hated that idea.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Well, we all missed
But no
each
one
other.
wanted to say they hated the idea.
Yeah.
And so.
They were
it
just trying to
didn't-
give a break.
Breaking up didn't work.
You tried to take a break and you got back together.
That's right.
That's awesome.
Barb, is Christian in your group?
Yes.
We love Indian.
Christian and Emmy are just a riot.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh.
I met with him on Friday morning, first watching him these breakout
Yep.
sessions, and I sat over there and introduced myself. He said, "We were in launch." I said, "Oh yeah, we met."
Yeah.
I said, "Well, how do you like small group?" I couldn't turn him off.
I gotta tell you.
That's so
That-
awesome.
First off, it is fun having people who don't speak English as a native language in your
Yeah.
group. And
It's
it
keeps things-
is a riot
Yeah.
to be with them. But we,
Is he from Germany?
no, they're both from Switzerland, but he's from the French part and she's from the German part.
Okay, so there is some
And
German
so-
in there, yeah.
And so it's pretty interesting.
That's great. What
But
a
this
great-
group
What's interesting
this
is there
group's
was
wild.
that group that y'all were in that sort of
Yeah.
were similar, and now there's this the group that's in there now. They're all kind of similar, but they're like 20-something.
Good.
Young
Some
singles.
singles in there.
There's some couples
so it's
too,
like
they're
every
young
Launchpad
too.
class has its own kind of identity.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's the purpose of Launchpad
Yeah.
is to get those.
It is.
Except one. They got one outlier but
That's okay. Hey, if there's some
Right.
conversations
actually
with it.
the Bethays are thinking about nabbing her from the.
Oh, are they?
I'll find a home for. Oh, he's
Find
already
a home.
spoken for?
Well, Jamie is here. They're hawking for a new member.
I know, what are we doing
Got
here?
a new member fair.
Launchpad adoption day, what is this?
All right, y'all are out of control. I'm gonna go check on.
They're out of control. It's all right though. That's so funny.
The one thing that Sarah hadn't said is about 100 leaders of the accuracy is out there, but about 30% of the church is now involved in small groups.
Fantastic.
But we would love to see that be
As long as the number
bigger.
holds up in that form.
Yeah.
The number holds up, and after only 2 years, that's a
Yeah.
significant number.
continue to have the problem of what do we do with people who want to be in small groups if it's not time to assign them yet? Like we would love that. We would love for it to be a part of the culture that you come here and you get plugged into a small group. So y'all are really helping, because it's really only been around since we've reintroduced it a couple of years now. So, a few more years, in 2 or 3 more years, I would love for it to just be what people here do, is join a small group. So y'all are going to help with that, which is awesome. Even though we ask you to be patient with us in case you get assigned 5 groups and none of them are meeting. We will find you more. We will find you more. But you're still going to be helping us with the records part, which is great.
Will there be?
And you may have to stalk them. You may have to email them, call them, go by vote. I don't know. Like some of these folks may not want to get back in touch with you, but it will happen, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So tackle them on a Sunday, like figure out what they look like via Facebook and corner them in the mow.
No, let's
I've been calling you.
There was a big article in the Dallas Morning News this morning about face recognition.
Oh yeah,
So,
because
there's a lot of states are using it with when you get your driver's license picture and stuff, and it was shocking, the face
Your
recognition.
passport.
You can't smile now.
Yeah.
They have, and you have to have your ears showing, and,
You know what's fun is taking a baby to get a passport photo taken.
Oh, yeah.
That was exciting, because they can't smile either, and you have to get them, and you have to put a blanket over yourself so you can hold them, because they wipe behind them. So you hold them, but you're covered in.
Oh, that's
It was very
I
exciting.
never even thought.
We had a
Yeah.
special needs daughter,
Baby
and
passport
said she had to
photos.
stand up, and no.
They
That's
won't
not
do
gonna
what
work.
you want them to do
No.
on the spot, because.
No, you'll be off to the side, it won't work
She'll be
right.
listening.
She'll be listening.
We gotta go help with the kiosk.
I know, yeah, we've got,
Nice to see you, well, you guys will right at the kiosk, you gotta wear those every attention, those are great.
oh, y'all are so welcome. I know it was a little loosey-goosey, so let us know if y'all
Not
need
every
anything.
guy would wear that, but
We
it was
used to
so
small
good.
group
Love
training.
it.
too,
I
and
really love it.
And so, but that was old technology
Oh.
today, so.
Well, and it's like this is a
Oh,
short,
the-
it
for the
went,
school back then.
like,
Oh,
the
you're
coaches
right.
that these
And it
people are
was this
coaching
and
are
like
doing
black
a
tiger
ton
sign.
of
It's a
work,
good thing
which
you
is
have
great,
whiskers,
but.
'cause
Roger,
everyone
one of our
knows,
churches
We would
is
try
like
to start like
You're
this, and then if we need to do continuing education
Not
to
me.
it, then
He
we
looks
wanna do
really
that
good in
as we
things he
go.
does very well, so,
We don't wanna do that all at once.
Well,
Yeah.
And
The,
that's
uh,
the way to go.
one of the churches that
Favorite
we're
outfits
part
I
of,
see today.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, I'm
they
sure
actually
we're worried
refer
about
to
that,
small
but.
group.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna go see if we can
We were
recruit
hoping.
people to come to the.
And it was good, so it was a pretty good sized church.
Yeah.
And then two lay pastors would meet together.
Wow.
He didn't get the email?
But that was regular, I mean, they were,
Well,
it
we'll
was
work on that for next
programmatic.
year.
Well, you know
how
what,
you were
his
able
shirt
to
that's
get
sort of this
together.
color, he got a big old
Appreciate your
stain
coaching
right here, and I've
guidelines.
tried everything I could find on the internet, I can't get the stain
Did
out,
good.
so.
Well, I
I'm
had
gonna
no
leave
problem
you,
with
I'm gonna leave you this, because I
yeah.
actually need to.
Okay, well, if you already have your system, you use your system.
Oh, yeah,
Otherwise the
I'm
whole-
real wonky on that.
Yeah.
I prefer it all
And
digitally,
Sarah,
because then I can find it.
Well, you want me to email you this stuff?
It'd be great if you had an
Okay,
FTP
yeah.
site that you could just
Yeah, I'll
log
bring
in
it to
for.
you.
Yeah, that's true,
I won't
that's
be
true.
here next week,
I'll
but
check
you
with
will.
Ryan.
Yeah, or a
Excellent.
resources page or something like that, because that way you can update it and we can refresh.
Load them up there, yeah.
Pete didn't have one of the papers, so he took it from here, so you just need to know
Okay,
that
we
this one
update
is
that one.
missing.
That was a pre-vacation moment.
Pre-vacation?
Yeah, that was one. You're only one out of, well, good.
Do we have any teams, small groups that are meeting downtown, Oak Cliff area?
You know, we have some that meet at DTS, but I don't think we do. We have, in fact, I'm in Northwest Dallas, and we're not even all the way into Oak Cliff, and there's not a lot of us. You know what, though? We do have some, but they're in the streets. We have some, I feel like we have a group that meets over in streets like Lakewood area.
They're actually Bishop. Do you know Bridget and Smitty Smith?
I don't, but, yeah. I'm like, I have tons of friends in the
They
Bishop
live
Arts
near-
District, but they don't
Yeah.
go here.
Yeah, yeah.
We do have some Northwest Dallas folks, so we live, 35 and
Yes,
Royal,
yeah.
which is a little better, and then we have like University Hills people, so I feel like that would be your most logical connection point. And then some folks down at DTS, but those groups tend to be, well, we do have a couple actually who's coming to Launchpad, who is at DTS right now, and that would be close, close.
They're
to
interested,
Bishop
they're
Arts.
they're newlyweds, they've just been moving
Okay.
here, they're
Uh-huh.
30, they're late 30s or, he's 40, I
Okay.
guess 40 and 45.
Okay.
But a young married couple, even though they're a little older,
Yeah.
and they don't care about matching. They're
Right,
happy to meet with
okay.
anybody, but
That's good to know.
Since they live down there.
Well, and would you email me their info, so I can share it with like Henry and Katie, since we do that all together?
Yeah.
But I'm gonna keep in mind that the young couple we have, it's a young, well, actually, I say young, they're probably later 20s, they may even be early 30s.
I don't think that makes a difference, I mean,
Okay.
they like us, we're,
Yeah.
60, so.
Old as dirt.
But you don't
Y'all are
act
easy
it.
life,
You
though.
don't, you
Y'all
don't.
are living a life, though.
Yeah.
We got to know them
You don't
in
act
one
like
of the
that.
marriage registry programs, you know.
Awesome,
and,
okay.
they're
Yeah,
a
if you
great
would
couple.
email me all their
Will do.
info, cause
Okay.
I have currently like 4 or 5 people that I've gotten some specific info on that we're trying to connect. But I do have a Northwest Dallas group,
That might
couple
work.
that's looking for a group. And if
Maybe
they're
they
more,
can
if they're willing to
start
drive up 35 and
Oh, sure.
cause
Yeah.
even Design District isn't far from us, and that's right
Right.
across the bridge from them.
Right, and they're very close to that.
Yeah, so, yeah, that is, it's more our neighborhood
Yeah,
than.
and they knew there wasn't likely to be one in Bishop Arts.
Well, I know, but yeah, okay, well, cool, definitely email me.
I didn't know you guys were first teams.
We were, we're not now, but we were at the time. Yeah.
I'm working for a partner.
Are you? That's
Yeah,
awesome.
VP
I have
of
some,
finance.
I have some great friends, that work there, Julie Hopkins and, her crew, so. Yeah, I interviewed there a long time ago. I didn't get the job.
Oh,
But then I got a
you
job
wanted
in
to go
DTS.
talk to somebody?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
he knows people now.
This was like, this
Who
was
does
like
he need
8,
to
9
take
years
out?
ago. They should have hired me now.
Although I am looking for 2 people.
Are you?
I'm looking for an accounting coordinator,
Okay.
so, basic detail orientation, willing to learn, and
Cool.
then somebody else at like the senior account level.
Well, I'll keep that in mind because, everybody's looking for jobs, well, at least for mine.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of friends whose kids are finally in school, and
Yeah,
they're like,
they're
they're ready to go back to work.
Department Live's a great place for moms to work, cause they're very flexible, there's a lot of people that don't come
Well,
into
that's
the
what
office
Julie
every
likes it,
day.
cause she can work from home.
Yeah.
And
Or people who
she's
like
got
to-
3 kids under 3.
Yeah, people that like to work from their sailboat, you know.
That like to work from their sailboat, for example.
Yeah.
Not
What
that
would
that could
be?
happen. Well, these jobs are office jobs and you ones.
They need to be in the office so you can be on your boat.
Well, I'm in the office,
Most of the year.
most of the time.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, cool, I'll keep that in mind for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, man, that was good.
Good
Well,
job.
I'm glad,
Really
I'm
like
glad.
the resources and stuff.
Good, I'm glad it was helpful. It's so interesting doing a training for the very first time and.
Ryan needs to fear that he's following you up.
Like they said, you
Yeah.
were really prepared.
And then he'll ask who, and then that'll be a problem.
Well, you can narrow it down to about 7 people.
Yeah, it's gonna come
He's
pretty
taking
quick,
notes for me
that's
next
why.
week, I won't be here.
Okay, yeah, well, it shouldn't be, you've done so much with like, small group Bible
She'll be in
studies.
Europe, don't go there.
Yeah, oh.
Yeah, the island of Guernsey, how fun is that?
Oh, that's so fun.
Did you
Is
read the
that
potato peel?
British?
Uh-huh, but it's off the coast of
Yeah, off the
France.
coast.
Did you
Yeah,
read the
okay.
potato
I
peel
did,
society?
I did read
That's
that.
what got us, Lexi's moving home.
Okay,
And she said for a
cool.
long time that they fly British Air, and so she always goes through Heathrow. So she's been saying for like 2 years, when I finish and fly home, let's meet at Heathrow and do something
And do
fun.
something,
So we're
yeah.
having the ladies literary tour, and we're going to Guernsey, and then we're
So
going to
awesome.
Cornwall to stock Rosamond Pilcher.
That sounds so fun.
Wow.
And I was supposed
My
to
mom
be
and I are about to
settling
plan a
back
girls
in
trip, so
Hawaii
we keep
right
all this
now.
in mind.
Yeah.
That fell out.
Yeah, it fell out.
Oh, I'm so-
The guy who's.
If y'all want more food,
told us-
don't be
Yeah.
shy.
told us, decided not to sail it.
So
Maybe
you're stuck
next year.
here.
I'm here.
Come over for dinner.
We all know you can't feed
We'll
yourself.
get that
When
covered.
did you travel?
It's Friday.
Not in August.
No,
I
he's here
I
in
regress
August.
to the mean in August.
Yeah,
At this
September,
point,
he's got.
I've got
conference.
conventions in town,
That's
jury
what I got
duty,
too.
and.
She just was at jury duty on Monday.
I gotta do mine Monday.
Now, I always
One
got
day
a jury
we'll
duty because
try.
I'm the caretaker for
Oh,
kids.
yeah.
But that's my luck's gonna run out one day.
I just got called, I'm 60, I just got called for the first time in my entire